Welcome to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast, hosted by Renita Ray Davis, licensed clinical social worker, board-approved social work clinical supervisor, and facilitator of the Goddesses of Social Work supervision community. Join us as we travel through the social work journeys told by the Goddesses of Social Work community members, past and present, as they make their way toward clinical licensure.
Welcome back to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast, where we celebrate the brilliance, resilience, and creativity of social workers who are transforming lives and redefining what healing looks like. And today's episode is a very special milestone. This is our 100th episode. 100 conversations, 100 stories, 100 reminders that social work is sacred work. It feels only right that this 100 episode falls within our Swag Award series, honoring recipients of the Social Worker Appreciation of Greatness Awards, social workers who embody service, wellness, advocacy, and growth in the most authentic ways. And today we're celebrating someone whose very name speaks to the essence of this milestone, Taylor L. Pinkston, the Heart Advocate. Taylor is a licensed self-love social worker devoted to helping people choose self-love as a coping skill for mental health and healing. As the clinical practice program manager of Healthy Start Inc. in Pittsburgh, she provides cognitive behavioral therapy to prenatal and postpartum mothers experiencing major depressive disorder. She's also the creator of Self-Care Matters and HOE, H-O-E, Healing Over Everything, programs that help people return to themselves through honesty, compassion, and radical heart work. She received her MSW from California University of Pennsylvania in 2015, became a licensed social worker in 2022, and earned her certification in the Foundations of Self-Love in 2017. So, as we mark this 100th episode, a celebration of heart, healing, and legacy, I can think of no better guest to help us remember what it means to love ourselves through it all. Taylor, welcome. I'm so honored that you are the one joining us for this 100th milestone.
I am absolutely honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Renita.
You are welcome. Taylor, before we dive in, and I'm super excited, I think I emailed you. I was doing my little podcast schedule, and I was doing the numbers, and I was like, oh my goodness, the heart advocate, the self-love guru is gonna be our 100th episode. It just felt so perfect. It felt so perfect. And I emailed you a few weeks ago and was like, I can't believe how the synchronicity lined up so well. But before we dive in, self-love guru you are, in what ways do you show yourself self-love before you give to others? How do you pour first into you?
I receive when beautiful folks like yourself consider me a guru in self-love. I I I know that self-love is a specific journey that one chooses because it is a practice. And although I receive it, I consider myself a student of self-love. And I think that that is how I give myself the permission to self-love. It's by allowing myself to be imperfect in the practice and not holding myself hostage to a standard that is unrealistic. I don't believe that perfection is real. I think it was placed on us. And then we try to apply it to very holistic things like self-love. And that completely goes against its purpose. So I think that foundationally is how I show myself or how I choose to love myself, is just allowing myself to be a human being. And to, although I'm the heart advocate, no matter what I'm doing and where I go, those closest to me allow me to just be Taylor. And I'm grateful for that. Um, but my people and keeping them close and being vulnerable and transparent with them are other ways that I'm able to show myself love. There's so many ways to practice self love, but I think foundationally, self compassion is a huge part of what self love means. The ability to be kind to self and patient with self and understanding of our humanity and those needs that are relatable to all of us, you know. And if we don't allow ourselves to just be a human being, how are you going to love yourself?
That was so beautiful. Taylor, I want you to go on and on. And I'm going to dig my heels in a little bit.
Yeah.
Those who are close to me know that I love astrology, and
Mm,
um, Venus was just in Virgo. And, you know, I kind
mm,
of like to sit in the Venusian energy and what lessons is she learning as she's in each
mm.
sign. And you know, Virgos, they you know, they're known to be detail oriented. I say that
Yes.
kindly. And the, you know, the other way we could say it is a little perfectionistic, right? They could be
Uh-huh.
perfect. And so Venus, the planet of love, the planet of self-love, being
Mm,
in this, you know, perfectionistic sign, and the South Node was there too. One of the lessons that I got from
mm,
sitting in that energy the last few weeks as releasing perfectionism,
mm.
releasing perfectionism. And, you know,
Yeah.
as an act, like you said, as an act of self-love
Mhm.
and allowing yourself to be human. And one of there's a lot of converging of messages that are happening in my head right now, but I'm
Mm,
reading The Shack. I forget who the author is, but in this iteration
mhm,
of God is a black woman, and I kind of was
mm,
sitting, you know, even with that energy of God being a black woman and releasing perfectionism, and
mm,
not nothing we can do could ever separate us from
mhm,
that love. And that means you can release trying to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect.
mm,
Yeah, you don't have to
mhm,
be. There's no reason to be, because there's nothing
mhm,
that separates you from that. And so if we know that,
mhm.
and then we can give ourselves that kind of compassion, like you said, that kind of
Absolutely.
grace. I think that is the epitome. I didn't even know that's how we were going to get started today. And I'm so glad we did. That is the epitome of self love.
And
Giving
very
yourself.
difficult to do.
Mm.
Extremely
Why do
difficult
you
to
think,
do.
Taylor, as the heart advocate, why do you think it's so difficult for us to be so compassionate and graceful with ourselves?
Well, I mean, we have most of us, and I'm not going to generalize it as every single human on the earth, but I think most of us were not raised in households that promoted self love more than we glorified being perfect. You know, that practice of perfection. And even I, as the heart advocate, I am sure that my 9-year-old daughter is witnessing me place perfectionist ideas on her as I parent. And even if I recognize it, like even if I have the awareness of it and I'm able to correct that, it's still happening because it's this idea that who we are is not enough. We need to be fixed, or you know, this idea that we're broken and we need to change who we are, whether that's our parents or our behaviors or the way we think about things and our personality and our, you know, our mental health. Like there's so many nooks and crannies of our life that are picked apart, and it's, you know, advertised and marketed to be fixed. So I think that idea of brokenness with perfection go hand in hand, because we're always trying to reach a level that literally does not exist. And so it's a never ending journey of proving ourselves that actually looks like an obsession with failure, this obsession with making a mistake, worrying about that, um, never feeling like we're good enough, imposter syndrome. And I mean, it comes from, and people who know me will probably laugh when they hear this because I say it all the time. This is a white supremacist idea. Capitalism, patriarchy, these things, this is where it comes from. And so these standards of beauty, standards of what's good enough, that's the why. Like from grade school, we were getting graded on if we were good enough, right? Report cards. Like we don't think about it as this is a perfectionist behavior, but it is. Like it comes from these things that we have been practicing since we were very, 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 very young. Um, and so I don't believe in unlearning things, but teaching yourself something new is definitely something that you can choose to do. But it is hard to teach yourself self-love in a world that is telling you you are broken and you need to be fixed. And here I come like, you're enough. You're worthy as you are. You don't need to do anything or be anything to be enough. You were born that way, and it just doesn't feel like the truth, even though it is.
It is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely is the
Yeah.
truth. When you were talking and before you brought up the patriarchy and white supremacy, I wrote down DSM, because we are social workers.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get into your social work journey in just a minute, but we're here now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's stay here for a second. The DSM was written by the patriarchy. And so then, so for instance, I have the pleasure and the honor of serving so many beautiful women and specifically Black women. And had a client recently come and she was like, oh my God, someone just told me I'm OCD,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that means, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, but she just having to come apart about it, right?
Yeah.
Without even looking at, do you meet all of these symptoms? Let's just talk about what are the behaviors that indicated to your loved one that they want to say this to you. And so you're what I hear you saying, by keeping things organized, that helps you to feel safe. By having an aesthetic that is pleasing to you, you're able to breathe in and breathe out. And so sometimes we see these diagnoses as
Mm-hmm.
this broken thing, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, now I must be broken because I'm exhibiting this behavior, enough so that someone has called me a DSM diagnosis. And I'm like, but what if all of those things, you were designedly and uniquely made to do those things, to
Yeah.
help you self-soothe and to help
Yeah.
you live? And because you do those things, you're going to raise children in a household who feel structure and they feel safe and they feel loved because you put enough effort in there to make sure all of their things were organized and straight. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, what a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so then instead of it
Mm-hmm.
being this broken energy, it's a superpower.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a
That's so strengths
superpower.
based. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But perfection doesn't teach
Mm-hmm.
strengths based. Like there's nothing strengths based about this idea that you are fixed and need to be changed in some way uh, because you don't fit into what we say is enough or good enough, right? Um, and so we internalize it. We internalize racism, we internalize colorism, we internalize, self judgment and ridicule and shame. And um, we no longer need the world to bully us. Now we can do it ourselves and bully ourselves out of using our voice and advocating and living in our truth and saying no or saying yes. We have a lot of practice with beating ourselves up and beating ourselves down. That absolutely is anti self love.
I don't remember the quote, but I wrote, even we have a lot of practice in staying small, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
when you were saying that, I was thinking about Marianne Williamson. Our biggest fear is not that we are powerful. I forget the rest of it, but
Is that we are powerful
but
beyond measure.
beyond measure,
We
yes,
are
we
powerful, and
are
we are so
powerful. Mm-hmm.
afraid of
Mm-hmm.
our power. And when we think about clinical social work, I loved how you took, and we'll say diagnosis because your family and friends can't diagnose you, nor can TikTok. So, I digress. Um, Even if you think you have a diagnosis, being able to shift that perspective of something like having OCD to maybe, it involving being an extremely organized person, and that makes you feel safe. And then also, maybe you have a unique relationship with control. And that's something to be assessed by a licensed professional who can actually diagnose you. Um, but we box ourselves into these ideas of who we think we are or who we think we should be. And we're just doing a lot of damage to ourselves and to our loved ones when we label them um, in that way. It's so damaging to mental health to label. Sometimes I think we do need the labels for healing, but if that's not handled in a clinical way from someone who is, licensed and trained to do so, that can be really damaging. Really damaging. We got to be careful. We got to be careful with that.
Absolutely. And so that brings us, that's a great segue into your licensed social work journey. And
Mm,
I love, the Guys of Social Work podcast was created because I love listening to the stories and journeys of social workers, like from the
mhm.
beginning, like from the womb. How did you find out about social work?
Yes.
And how did you get here? And how did
Mhm.
that lead you to becoming or evolving into, I would like that word, evolving into the heart advocate?
Mm. My journey of social work started when I was a child. And this is a reflection back, of course, because at the time I was just my normal. I grew up with a child care in my home. My mom didn't have a degree in social work, but if you have a child care, that's social work. Okay. So in my home, there was a child care, and I wanted to be a child care provider for a long time. But I also grew up in a half sportsy, half artsy household. So my mom was the artsy fartsy one. My dad was the sports one. I did a little bit of both. But as I got into high school, I really gravitated towards the arts. So vocal performance and writing were my niches. I went to the Creative and Performing Arts High School here in Pittsburgh for vocal performance, but I loved to write, and it was just always my thing. And when I started applying for university, I wanted to pursue writing more than I wanted to continue to sing. And so I initially applied for my bachelor's in journalism, uh, and found out very quickly that I was not a journalist. That was not the calling on my life. And I had a professor, an awesome Black man at that time, just keep it real with me. Like you're more of a creative writer, a storyteller, and journalism is very specific. So he encouraged me to switch majors, which I did. So I at the time had a minor in telecommunications or television production and communications. So I kept that, but became a creative writing major. And so I got my, or prepared to graduate with my bachelor's in that, but I needed some electives to graduate. And there were 3 social work courses available online that fit my schedule. And I was like, this is what I already do. It's what I already love. It's what I already care about. I was the friend that people came and spoke to. I was the one speaking up against injustice. I was the one advocating for myself and others. From the bully on the school bus, me stepping in when I was in, grade school, to the, just always being comfortable asking for help and being okay with not having the answer. I would support my classmates, and, you know, I was the writer, but I loved research and I loved data. It just felt so in alignment with things that I already valued that I didn't really have the terminology for. And so I just fell in love. Those were my favorite 3 courses, and they were online. And so I decided to go straight into my master's in social work. And it was the most challenging time of my education, but also one of the most rewarding, in the sense that it felt like exactly what I was supposed to be doing. My favorite professor, Dr. Rosalie Smiley, she's also a SWAT awardee this passing um, year. I just really got to see myself through my professors, see who the type of social worker that I wanted to become. And I just knew that I wanted to help people advocate for themselves, but I didn't necessarily think clinical at that time. And so once I received my master's in social work, around that same time, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. So I came back home, was living with my mother, trying to prepare to have a baby. I was working as a intake coordinator, doing drug and alcohol assessments for babies, for teenagers. And I was my most triggered because I was pregnant, about to have my own baby. It was the hardest job I've ever worked. Um, Definitely taught me what I didn't want to do, I'll say. But, through my self discovery in the relationship that I was in at the time, that was verbally and emotionally toxic and draining, as I was preparing to have my daughter, um, I felt like there was just something missing personally that wasn't going to be able to allow me to do the work that I wanted to do as an advocate, which is how I see social work. Um, I felt myself shrinking, like you mentioned before, really. Like, just, I felt like I was living small, in the sense that I wasn't using my voice in my relationship. I wasn't advocating for myself. I was settling for less than I deserved. The verbal abuse, the emotional abuse, dealing with a partner who was struggling with their mental health and struggling with, you know, alcohol abuse. Like, there was just so many things that I didn't see myself getting. Like, how did I get here? I didn't go to school for all those years, doing all that hard work to bring my daughter into a world where I don't feel prepared to have her. And this is the home environment that she's going to be born into. So, after she was born, and while I was pregnant with her, that, like, second to last trimester, I got diagnosed with prenatal depression and generalized anxiety disorder. So that was like another, self-discovery moment, because the social worker is supposed to know, right? Like took me so long to actually go and talk to someone about what I was feeling, because I felt like I should know better. Again, the perfectionist ideas of who I think I should be, as opposed to just allowing myself to have a human experience. I'm not above it. No amount of degree is going to eliminate a mental health concern or a struggle. So I had to be honest with myself about that. But once my daughter was born, um, that missing piece I felt like was loving myself. And so self love was really buzzy at the time. That was like 2015, 2016. Everybody online was talking about self love. There was like self love Sundays and Saturdays and all these things. I just did some research online. I found the Path of Self Love School, and I wanted to get certified in it, but it was so expensive. And as a single mother, it was completely out of my scope. So I just emailed them and told them my story, again, with the advocating for myself. Just told them my story. I was just transparent. And they scholarshiped me. And I was able to get my certification through the Path of Self Love. 10 out of 10 recommend. But Christine Arilo and her amazing team showed me myself, showed me how I was choosing everybody else and not including myself. Gave me the foundations of what self-love meant, how to apply it to my life. And there was I immediately connected the mental health clinical space to this holistic self-love. And I'm like, why clinically are we only talking about self-esteem? Because self-esteem is a part of self-love. There's so much more than just being confident in yourself. It's trusting yourself and the compassion that I mentioned, and the awareness of self, and honoring yourself, and taking care of yourself. And there were so many other pieces that I knew if I was meeting with someone that I could help them lean into, that could support their mental health beyond self-care and self-esteem. And so, I vowed during my certification training to take everything that I learned at the Path of Self-Love and to spread it. And I didn't know how I was going to do that necessarily, but I just knew that I wasn't going to keep it to myself. And so I started doing free sessions, just offering sessions to people individually. And it just shifted from there, the online space, Healing Over Everything, the support group on Facebook, to speaking all over Pittsburgh about the medicine of self-love and how it supports your mental health. Yeah.
So beautiful. Oh my goodness, Taylor. I I wrote some stuff down, but I don't even think I'm gonna ask what I wrote down because it feels like you got your master's and you were in this perfect storm of I got this, but yet this is still oh my goodness. Oh, that's a word right there. I got
Mm-hmm.
this master's of social work. I mean, the master's of mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I'm in this. I'm like in the soup of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I did write down, how did you know that that was the missing piece? This loving myself piece. How did that awareness come to mind for you, that I have this degree, I have this competency, I have all of the education and knowledge about how the brain works, and how if I do all these things, these treatment plans and assessments, then I should be living a quality of life. I have all of those things. How then do you get to this awareness of, oh, it's the self-love piece that's missing?
I think the combination of the curiosity
Mm-hmm.
of what self-love meant and watching my choices, you know, choosing to be in the relationship with the person that I chose to be in a relationship with, choosing to ignore red flags, choosing to shrink and not speak up and advocate for myself, but I'm advocating for everybody else as a social worker. You know, I wasn't practicing what I preached. And what I was learning in through my coursework was how to advocate for others. But if I am the person doing that advocacy, I need to know how to do that for myself personally. And so when I discovered the word self love, it just felt like conviction. Like it just felt like, ooh, I need me some more of that. But what is it? And nobody could tell me. There weren't social media posts it just wasn't clear as to what that means. Because most people, when you ask them, do they love themselves? They'll say, yeah, but do your choices look like you love yourself? Because that's where I was. It was like, yeah, I love myself. But why am I making these choices in relationship, which is where I think the lack of self love really shows up? Who do you allow in your life? Who do you allow in your space? Who do you allow in your bed? That's where it was like, okay, well, maybe I don't, or maybe not fully, or not enough. And so, what's the practice of that? Like, what does it look like in real time to love self? And that is what I gained through the path of self love is the how, because it is a practice. It's not a feeling. Self love is not a feeling. Love is not a feeling. So then self love is not a feeling. It's an action. It's a verb.
Is absolute love is a verb. I used to say that all the time. Absolute love isn't a feeling, it's a verb. I love that. Taylor, I have a second question, but I'm gonna stay with this one for just a minute. You know, I told you Phoenix just left Virgo, and today or yesterday she moved into Libra, which is the other, right? And so when you said that's how we learn about ourselves is through relationship. A lot of people, I don't think, realize that what we're mirroring on the outside with the other, what's going on with ourselves on the inside. And so, how to change what you're seeing with the other on the outside is not by trying to control them or change them or be Captain Save a Hoe and try to save them.
That's correct.
It's how can I clean up what's going on the inside of me,
yes,
so that now the reflection that I see is absolutely something I want to engage with and be a part of, right? And so even, you know, I used to say my picker was broke. I'm laughing because, but it was my picker was broke because I wasn't doing the healing work on the inside, and so I would choose whatever I felt like was going on the inside, not realizing that's what I was doing. And so the fact that you said, you know, the reflection of self love can really truly be seen by what our relationships look like. What are your relationships looking like? And that is how you can see within yourself, where do I need to practice more self-love? Or how can I practice more self-love versus it being about the other person? It really always starts right here.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My second question, Taylor, is so, you know, you got your degree in 2012, I think it was.
So my bachelor's was 2012 in creative writing. I got my master's in 2015.
2015. So I'm going to say this. So I got my master's. I got, you know, in 99, 15 years. So I'm old school social work. So here it is. And it's a great question. So don't be scared. It's this, old school social work is this very tunnel vision way of doing the work. And so even teaching social work, this is how we taught it. This is how the way you're doing it. But what you did so early on in your career was this thing that's not social work, this path over here that's not social work, And then being able to say, but I still pay the money, invested, and still love this profession. How do I bring those two together? I'm always curious because of my own journey of having to break out of the box of social work and talk
Mhm.
about astrology and talk about,
Mhm.
my own spiritual problem. Like, oh my God, it's not social work. But you so easily and effortlessly was like, okay, I got this thing, this MSW over here, but then I have this certification that has nothing to do with social work, and I'm bringing those two things together. I want to just ask you, how was that so easy and effortless for you, and what outcome were you expecting? I like your face. I like the face you're giving me.
The face is it. It wasn't easy or
It
effortless
wasn't.
at
I love
all.
it.
It was actually really stumbly and fumbly. I already didn't even plan to be a social worker. Nothing in my journey through this degree has been planned. The Heart Advocate, that name came from the Path of Self Love School. My self love coach helped, she called me the Crusader. And it just kind of turned into the Heart Advocate. But at the time, my blog was called Ladyhood Journey. And I did all this branding for Ladyhood Journey and logoing and all of this stuff. The Heart Advocate came like the podcast came for you. Like it became this thing. I didn't want to only support women. I wanted to support human beings. And I was told that you need to narrow it down. You need to have a specific focus. I have right here on my laptop a worldwide community self-love practice. That is the Heart Advocate's purpose. So that means every human being practicing self-love as a community act, because it is not this selfish, only about me thing. It's an including of self that I was missing and that I know so many are missing. And so it was not easy. It was not intentional. I'm still reflecting back like, the pieces the pieces just fell into place, and I so believe in God's hand on it, because I could have easily dropped that television production communications minor, but God knew that I was going to be doing video, and that I was going to do a vlog, and that I was going to be speaking, and that I needed to have those skills. I didn't know it at the time, but there was a reason I kept it. And then the blog, I had a creative writing degree. So the blog just kind of fell into place, where I was able to just write and share my truth. And so many resonated with that. I took that to Twitter, and then I took that to Facebook, and now I'm on Instagram primarily. But there were so many pieces to it that were so not planned. And like you, Renita, I just met a need. Individuals needed to have a safe space on social media to not be bombarded with all of the negativity and the harmful energy and the vicarious trauma. So I wanted to have a space where you could just be encouraged and supported, but also challenged to do the work in a way that is safe and uplifting, and not, you know, beating you down for being an imperfect being. I'm an imperfect being, and I lead that way. I lead through transparency, um, and sharing the times where I let myself down, or, when I was stumbly and fumbly. Um, but it wasn't, and it still isn't. And I don't know where it's going to go, but I just know that it feels so right because I didn't plan it almost. That's to me what purpose is. And you really have to have faith in your ability to transform and to be used, like allow God to use you, allow the universe to use you, your gifts, your strengths. If you tell yourself what it's supposed to look like, that's all it'll be. But if you're open to the possibilities, you might find that what you thought you wanted to do isn't what feels most like you. So I hope I answered your question, but it definitely wasn't. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't planned. It's still very stumbly and fumbly. Um, yeah, I go where I'm led. I go where I'm called. It's why I don't necessarily want a brick and mortar. Like I like to go to your space. You know, that just feels more like me.
Yeah, more in alignment. Heather, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? This is so great. I love that it was fumbly and stumbly because then again, it's the releasing of perfection. It's like I'm not even gonna try. Because I work with top tier social workers, like I really do, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, gonna get my master's, gonna get my undergrad. What is it called? The
Yes.
LGSW. Then I'm gonna get my
Mm-hmm.
clinical license, and then I'm gonna open
Mm-hmm.
my private. I mean, they already have everything pathed out. And one
Yeah.
of the things that I love witnessing, especially within the Guides of Social Work community, we've been around now for about 6 years, and so I have over 20 beautiful women who are clinically licensed. And one of the things that I love witnessing in them is that they're like, this checkbox, and then they get clinically licensed, and they're like, I think I'm just gonna chill. I think I'm just gonna, they've done
Yeah.
wore themselves out.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm just
Mm-hmm.
gonna be open to the possibilities of what is gonna happen for me next. And so
Mm-hmm.
what I'm hearing is like after the MSW and your perfect storm, you're like, I'm just gonna be open to the possibilities of what happens next. And
Mm-hmm.
in doing that, like you said, you've been so successful as the heart advocate and in a more in alignment with the work. The second thought I had was also witnessing all these stories, over 100 stories here on the podcast, but also just all the beautiful social workers I've had the privilege of walking this journey with.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. There are so many talented people.
Mm-hmm.
I have artists and dancers and yogis and
Yeah.
creatives, and they think that they have to keep that separate from
Mm-hmm.
social work because like you there where was the self-love in the MSW program, where's the
Mm-hmm.
creative expression in the
Mm-hmm.
social work program? And so
Mm-hmm.
they don't see, how do I put these two things together, knowing that
Yeah.
if I put those together, that's really where the healing lies,
Yeah.
right? And so being able to hear you say this, one, we're trailblazers. We are reshaping what social work looks like. We're reshaping
Mm-hmm.
it by bringing that thing that we were gifted, innately gifted with, into this space and saying, here's my offering.
Yeah.
And then by doing that, that's building that bonfire. People will come. If you build it, they will come. Just like
Mm-hmm.
with your Instagram and all the
Mm-hmm.
social media stuff you've done. And by keeping it separate, we're fractured. And that
Mm-hmm.
fire can't be as big and as bold and as fulfilling and as warm as it potentially could be. But by
Yeah.
bringing that skill, that gift into the social work space and then providing an offering, I think that would be more fulfilling for those of us doing this work. And it will be more fulfilling for the people who are looking for exactly the unique thing that you're bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I 1000% agree with that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wish that more leaned into it. I think you were going to ask a question. Go ahead, because
No, I had a third thing. So
okay.
while you were talking, I was like, you know what, Renita? I tell people this. I changed my major 5 times before I found social work.
Mm,
Well, before social work found me, I had a professor who was like, I think you'll be a good social worker. But
mm,
I had a major in journalism. I had a major in English. I had a major in speech pathology. I had all And then
Okay.
here I am, and like, I don't know
Yeah.
why I started a podcast. Apparently, I like
Mm-hmm.
words. So when you were talking about your minor
Mm-hmm.
in television, your major in journalism, and you
Yeah.
blogging, you're on film, and like I
Yeah.
even said, I knew immediately since I met you, I was like, I'm not even gonna go over anything with you. We're just gonna hit record. It's because you are ready for the film, for the screening, for the recording because of that educational background of yours. And it's like,
Mm.
oh, for the first time in doing these 100 episodes, I just remembered, oh, yeah, I had a major.
It all comes
It all
together for a purpose that we don't know, and we're not supposed to know. We're not supposed to know everything.
at all. But tell me
No.
what you were about to say. I want to hear what you
I,
were about to say.
I think that conversation of the uniting
Mm,
all parts of us as social workers is such an important conversation. I happen to know a few social workers here in Pittsburgh, or I'll even say social workers, because you don't necessarily have to have a degree to be doing social work. For example, my mom, who, like I said, I grew up in a child care in my home. She has a counseling degree now and does a mobile play therapy bus. So she has a shuttle that goes around to schools throughout the city, and students come on the bus and do play therapy. But I think that foundation of childcare is her why, that is a part of what she does now. I know a master's of social work who does art therapy because she loves to paint and she loves to create. So she provides, social work through art. And for me, it's self-love. For me, it's educating and encouraging and teaching the practice of self-love through your voice, through your advocacy of self, the advocacy of your heart, what it feels, what it needs, and showing up for that. And again, just like I was told, you know, how to do what I'm doing, and to narrow it down to just men or just children or, no. I was also told to have a personal social media and then a business social media. Um, and it just doesn't feel that may work for others. It does not work for someone whose purpose is to a part of the purpose is to show the practice of self-love in my humanity. I am not going to separate my personal from my professional. And because Instagram is where I spend most of my time, I don't have a personal Instagram page. The Heart Advocate is Taylor. Taylor is the Heart Advocate. It's who I am. You're going to see personal photos. You're going to see professional stuff. You're going to get it all in one space because that feels authentic to me. And I think, not I think, I know that if more social workers truly saw how essential that they are, they would include their holistic approaches in their clinical space. They would include how they play and create in their professional social work space because there is a space for it. There's a need for it. It's certainly a need for the Black community. I think it's how we reach folks' mental health clinically by meeting them holistically first, you know? Um, but that's a whole nother podcast episode.
I know. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. And you know what, Taylor? I haven't even asked you your questions. I am going to segue into that. And, one of the reasons you're here is because you were one of the participants of the SWAG Award. You are an awardee of the SWAG Awards in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And, Sharice Nance, the creator of this amazing award ceremony, and she
Mm,
puts up on a party every year. So I
mm,
always want to give her flowers. She
absolutely. 10 out of 10.
connected us, but because this is the 6th year, right, of the Swag Award. So
Yeah.
you are amongst some, and I'm just going to say like this, badass social workers.
Yes.
What
That's
does
the
it
perfect.
mean to be a Swag Awardee?
Mm. It means being a swag awardee means that I have the opportunity and the privilege to, yes, sit beside other amazing social workers, all doing different things, uh, and to have the opportunity to celebrate myself and them in a way that social workers typically would never, because a part of being a social worker is sacrifice. You know, we don't do it for the money. We don't do it for the acknowledgement and the celebration. We do it as a service. It's a service. You do it because it's in your heart to do it, and not everybody has that strength and that gift to serve in this field. And so to be able to actually acknowledge ourselves and what we do, and to hear what others are doing, it means honoring a profession that we've dedicated our lives to, you know, voluntarily. Um, yeah, yeah, it means so much. It's an honor and a privilege to do the work, and it's an honor and privilege to be a swag awardee for sure.
I love that. What was your awardee night? Your awards night like? I got to hear from some of the others. What was yours? It seems like these are special nights. So, what was your night like?
So I was of year one, and year one was in the middle of the pandemic. So we did a virtual award ceremony. And I know in talking to Sharice, because Sharice does reflective supervision for me every week. So I get the privilege of spending an hour with her on a weekly basis at Healthy Start. She's a contracted LCSW for us, and I'm so grateful for her reflective supervision. But in talking with her about it, they had a whole another thing planned, as the first uh, award ceremony. And so for them to be able to put it together virtually was just, you know, it's a testament to her heart. She didn't want to not do anything because we were in the pandemic. So, I'm grateful that we were able to have a ceremony at all, because we know that that was such a trying time. And Sharice was dealing with so much during that time that I didn't know at the time. Um, but yeah, I was a part of year one, and there were a lot of awardees that year. And so the first year of anything,
Yeah,
you're figuring it out as you go. And to see it go from that to what it's become, yeah,
she
Sharice is really
badass.
doing her thing.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go back to your program, Self Care Matters and Healing Over Everything.
Mm.
And you created these beautiful, powerful, because I love community. That's my favorite thing to create is community. And so you've created these powerful community spaces. I'm curious, Taylor, what do those spaces look and feel like, and what transformations have you witnessed in the people that are a part of your communities?
So healing over everything was kind of my reintroduction to Facebook. I had got off of all social media for a few years, probably like 2011 all the way to 2015, 2016. So after being on Twitter and realizing a group was needed, a more safe space was needed, and that I could do that on Facebook, I started Healing Over Everything with a group of like-minded individuals who also wanted safe space. And we, would host um, weekly topics. We would go live. We There was just more of a community involved, and I had like a team that volunteered their time and supported me. I don't have that anymore, nor do I feel like I have the time with how the Heart Advocate has grown and shifted, because that didn't exist when I started Healing Over Everything. It was still ladyhood journey. Um, so now it is just like a safe hub and space. If you just want some encouragement, you can go down the timeline and be encouraged and receive some education on mental health and self-love. Um, and just I'm always accessible, in that space if people have questions or need support. Um, but yeah, it shifted over the years, and maybe one day it'll go back to more lives and weekly topics and things like that. But for right now, it is what it is, and I think self care matters as a 3-part workshop series uh, is the personification of Healing Over Everything. It's what I can't do on social media. And so I have a small group, max 12 to 15 individuals who want to know how to choose self care, how to practice it, what it looks like on your individual walk and journey, what it looks like in relationships, what it looks like personally, professionally. Um, Through a 3-day process, we come together, we eat, we laugh, we cry, and we go through my Self Care Matters workbook together, um, presentation style, but still very holistic. Um, and yeah, do the heart work. Definitely do the heart work. So, yeah.
So so beautiful. So tell me more about the Heart Advocate. So what is that the work you're doing now? The Heart Advocate
So, the heart advocate is me.
is you. Yes, yes. Hmm.
Um, I take the heart advocate everywhere I go because it's me. It's just the name for the advocating for the heart that I do, whether that's family and friends, whether that's in my parenting with my daughter, because I'm raising her in a self love household, in my relationship. So, my partner is aware that this is how I will show up in loving myself in the way that I didn't in my past relationships. Um, it shows up at Healthy Start in Pittsburgh, where I'm, program manager for our clinical practice department. And it's how I train clinicians to support moms with cognitive behavioral therapy in our program, Moving Beyond Depression. Um, it shows up everywhere on social media. It is literally me. If I'm in the room and you invited me, the heart advocate is there. Um, but of course, Taylor's always at that center. So the heart advocate I see is the licensed self-love social worker and mental health professional that educates on self-love, that practices self-love, that facilitates self-love workshops and presentations, always to the or with the intention on supporting your mental health, supporting your healing journey. Um, so that ultimately is what the heart advocate is. Uh, and so even in spaces like this, the heart advocate is here. Taylor's at the center.
I love it. Yes, I love it. Hello, hello. Oh, that was good. That was really beautiful. Taylor, I only have a couple more questions, and this has been such a beautiful interview. I love that it was my 100th episode, and it's felt so good, both inside and out. But
Mhm.
you know, one I have a favorite question that I love asking social workers, and you've been a social worker for over a decade now, and
Mm.
I am curious, is there a belief or a value of social work that has changed for you over the last decade?
Hmm. Belief or value that has changed about social work specifically?
So some
Hmm.
people, oh, you can't make any money was a belief that they had or was given. And then they're like, oh, I've been making
Okay.
six
Yeah.
figures, or
Yeah.
there's all these, or I thought I was going to save the world. And I realized I can I can help impact a life. Those kinds
Mm.
of
Mm.
things are usually how people answer. And I'm always curious, what belief about social work did you have in the beginning that's changed for you?
I kind of hinted toward it a little bit ago, but just this idea that I should know what to do and how to handle everything. There is a different hat that you put on in social work when you are helping someone learn how to advocate for themselves, when you are educating them on their mental health, how to take care of themselves. That doesn't mean that that transfers to yourself individually. Just because you know how to support someone and what to say and how to process their needs and put all the pieces together and give them the tools and the steps does not mean you can social work yourself. Social workers need social workers. I need to have a Sharice Nance that I meet with on a weekly basis who can help me see me and challenge me to do the same work that I'm challenging my participants to do. So I think, in 2015, when I was pregnant, I think I had to get to my lowest, and that breaks my heart that I had to get to my lowest emotionally and mentally before I said, it is okay that I do not know what to do and that I need to ask for help and lean on someone else, that I need to be honest and say that I am not okay. I think I had this belief that I got this master's. I should know what to do. I should know what to say. I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't have a mental health that's declining. I think that is something that 1000% I have shifted for myself. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay not to have the answers. It's okay to be a social worker that has a therapist, that has a psychiatrist, that takes medication, that, has your own social worker. It's okay. It's okay.
I have two things. One, I just changed my email tagline, but it used to say every good social worker has a social worker. And that's by Brene
Mm,
Brown. I heard that from her years ago. And one of her first TED Talks, she says, good social worker has a
mm,
social worker. And then one of the things I say often is my favorite therapists are those who have therapists.
yes.
You
They're the best
know, they're the best kind because you want to know what it feels like to sit on the other side of the table. And
kind.
you need to be able to release because people are literally, we are being paid for people to trauma dump
Yeah.
onto you. So then what do you do with all that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with it?
Mm-hmm.
Especially like you said when you were working with the mamas who were you're having to do the needs assessment for the mamas who may have been using substances and that was triggering for
Children. It
you.
was children
Children. Yeah, and that
while
was
pregnant.
triggering
That
while
was
pregnant.
beyond triggering. That was the hardest
Yes.
thing. Yeah. But
Who do
yeah.
you go to? Because you can't
Yeah.
talk about that with your family or
Mm-hmm.
if you do have a healthy partner, and at the time we did, but even if you had a healthy partner, it's
Right.
unfair to unload that
Mm-mm.
onto them. That's vicarious
Absolutely.
trauma. So pay
Absolutely.
somebody who hopefully also has a therapist to go talk
And the
about
cycle
and the
continues.
cycle
Yes.
continues.
Yes. Yes. It's yeah.
Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
We have to
yes.
take care of ourselves.
I love that, Taylor, because so many people do think that, oh, because I'm a social worker, I'm not supposed to. What? Well, who made up that rule? Who made
Mm-hmm.
up that? Yes,
Mm-mm.
I love that. All
Yeah.
right, Taylor, I have two different questions. I'm trying to decide which one. I'm just going to ask you both, and
Okay.
okay. So, for social workers who are feeling disconnected, how can we begin to bring heart-centered wellness into our work and as simultaneously reconnect to ourselves, right?
Mm.
But then I also am just curious, do you have one affirmation that you could leave us with today?
Mm.
So it is this bringing us back into this work and to loving this work through loving ourselves is the
Mm.
question, and then leaving us with an affirmation.
I think it's so important as a social worker to know your triggers, to know what things you've experienced that are traumatic, that have created trauma responses, to know the warning signs of burnout for you, to know when burnout or compassion fatigue is present, which is a type of burnout, like to know what is leading up to landing in burnout. Um, if we don't have our own wellness plans that includes what are your triggers, as we educate when it comes to trauma, you're reacting before you're processing. So as a social work professional, as someone who is being trauma dumped on, as someone who is working with individuals experiencing trauma and in crisis, at times, you need to know how that's going to impact you to hear those stories. You need to know how your personal life is showing up in how you are supporting individuals. Because as much as the world may try to tell you to separate, you're not doing it. You think you're separating, but you're not, which is, a part of why I chose to not have separate social medias. I need the reminder of my humanity as a professional. I'm starting to shift away from the work life balance. Balance feels perfectionist to me. And it's more like work life boundaries. And so if you are aware of how life has impacted you and how that shows up in the work that you do, you will set boundaries that are healthy. Because I believe in healthy and harmful boundaries too. Like we have to be able to assess self and spend that quality time doing that work. And no, I don't believe that you have to be fully healed. I don't even believe that you can be fully healed, but I don't believe that you have to be in order to help other people. But I hope along your journey, you're doing the same work in your own life that you are asking your clients and your patients and your participants to do for themselves. So I think that's how you get back to yourself and to the work of social work, knowing when to take a rest from it. Some of us just need to, you know, take a break from it, because your compassion fatigue is showing. That slip is showing. So, just awareness and intention. Um, and you asked for an affirmation. I love an affirmation. I love, yes, Rita. I
I
love,
figured with our love of words, because
uh
words of
yeah,
affirmation is my love language, and
okay.
so I speak. We talk about self love, and I was literally talking about this weekend to someone. She was like, "How do I show myself self love?" in a relationship. And we brought up the 5 love languages. And what is your love language? You start with giving that love language, which
Make
is
it a
your love
self-love
language, to
language.
yourself.
Absolutely.
And
I was
so
just talking about this.
Words of affirmation being my
Same.
top one.
Same.
I speak words of affirmation over myself every day. That is how I show myself self-love. And so knowing that you have these degrees and you love words and blogging, I had to ask about the affirmation.
I appreciate you and resonate so much with it. I think the practice of affirmation works if you do it often. Can't talk to yourself once and expect for yourself to just believe it. So it's the consistency. It's more about which one to share, but I'm just gonna give what's coming to me. One of the things that I like to do in terms of affirmation is making affirmation a mantra. And so that just means saying it over and over and over again. That could be a one-liner, could be a two-liner, three-liner, but something like, I'm enough, I'm capable, I'm qualified. And repeating that, I am enough, I'm capable, I'm qualified. I am all about gassing self up. So ignite, okay? Ignite. Ignite.
I do the same thing, especially in the shower. I'm like, take up space, sis. Take up space.
Yes. Turn that affirmation into a mantra.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love it. So give it to us one more time. I am enough. I am capable, and I am qualified. I love it. 7 times. All day long, guys. Yeah. I am enough. I am capable, and I am qualified. That I am. That I am. Yes, all right. Taylor, thank you so much for helping me to celebrate this 100th episode with your heart.
And congratulations.
I
know I said it before, but I'm going to say it again. Not many can say it. And the intention behind your why you're doing it, which ultimately started as a service to help those that you were supporting in this social work field. It just says so much about, your character. And to have 100 episodes of, talking about this awesome field, it goes without saying, but congratulations. Most deserved.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you. I used to say, however many years I was in social work, I'm still in love with the profession. And I think this is my love letter to the profession. Yeah. That's beautiful. This is my love letter. I got goosebumps. So yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But thank you for sharing your heart, your wisdom, and your authenticity. You reminded us that self-love is not indulgent. It is revolutionary, and it's how we sustain our service, wellness, advocacy, and growth. This milestone wouldn't be possible without voices like yours and the Goddesses of Social Work community who continue to show up, share, and shine their light in the world. And to everyone listening, we will make sure that we have Taylor's links, theheartadvocate.com. Please follow her on Instagram at The Heart Advocate. And she has there for you guys daily reflections, more affirmations like the one we just practiced today, and self-love inspiration. And until next time, this has been the Goddesses of Social Work. I'm your host, Renita Ray Davis. And y'all take care of your hearts and remember that self-love is sacred work.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. We are glad you were here. If you like this episode, please come back to hear more stories of the journeys through social work, and please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. See you next time here on the Goddesses of Social Work podcast.